rope flow just looks so cool, right? And it's just smooth and fun and great for your mobility, and can even help you improve your posture, your coordination, your timing, your balance. So many things about rope flow are amazing. But did you know it can actually heal the body? Well, believe it or not, it actually can. And I'll explain exactly how in just a minute. But for those of you who are new to the concept, you might be wondering, what in the world is this rope flow stuff we're talking about? And that's understandable. So listen, rope flow is about a lot more than just kind of looking cool. Although it definitely checks that box, it's really about this beautiful conversation between your body and the rope, which creates these dynamic movements that kind of restore your body's natural ranges of motion, really boost your coordination levels to 1,000. And just as important as all that, it feels amazing. Not only that, but learning the fundamental moves of rope flow, like this pattern we call the matador, is actually quite simple and a lot of fun. But just like any other skill, learning more advanced patterns like this overhand sneak movement, in order to get good at those types of things, takes repetitions and lots of practice to get it down. And that brings us back to our topic of the day, which is how can all that fun practice actually help heal your body? And in order to understand that, we got to take a look at a problem that's really facing all of us, which is our modern lifestyle. Now, they say sitting is the new smoking. And unfortunately, modern society is turning all of us into a bunch of, professional sitters, right? You get in your car, you sit for your commute, you go to work, you sit at your job, you come home, you sit in front of the TV, and before you know it, all that sitting in those stiff, unnatural positions without moving your hands, without moving your joints the way they're supposed to go, is wreaking havoc on your body. And you look around one day and someone's like, hey, how's your core strength, buddy? It's like, core strength? What core strength? What about your posture? My posture's screwed. Don't even ask about my mobility. Forget about it. And here's why all that sitting is so insidious. It's because we're highly adaptive creatures, right? So the less you move, the better your body will get at, not moving, right? Seriously. So if you ever heard that term, that if you don't use it, you'll lose it, that's not just something old people say, it's really literally the fact of the matter. When it comes to the physical sense, one of the main reasons that is true is something called your fascia. So your fascia is just this connective tissue within your body, right? It actually surrounds and connects all your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, even your internal organs, okay? And what you find inside of your fascia is there are these cells called fibroblasts. And don't worry about the terminology, but basically one of their functions is to kind of go around throughout your body, and they create these little spider webs. And they're not really spider webs, but I'm using that as a term so you can visualize it. These little spider webs they create, especially in the areas that you are not using. The ranges of motion that you don't use, they get more and more of these little spider webs that are created until they start getting thicker and more dense. It almost becomes a restrictive scaffolding, so that when you don't raise your arm or put your arm behind your back or do in any of the ranges of motion that your joints were designed to have available to them, your body starts to shut down the operations. It makes it so that you're not able to actually use those ranges of motion anymore, so you will actually lose them. Now, if you've ever had a cast on for any length of time, even not very long, you'll have experienced this in accelerated fashion. So when they take that cast off, what you'll notice is you've got, your muscles are smaller already, even if it's only been a week or two. You'll have much less mobility, and it's going to be harder to move in those ranges of motion if you had a joint that was immobilized, until you kind of work back to getting those ranges of motion back again. So this is exactly where rope flow can come to the rescue and prevent you from becoming more and more stiff and less mobile as you age and go through life. Before we jump into how rope flow can heal your body in that regard, I want to play a quick kids game with you. So please humor me for a second. If you're sitting down, stand up with me. I'm talking to you. I see you sitting over there. I know you're sitting. Come on, stand up. All right, now put your right hand on your head and your left hand on your stomach, and I want you to pat your head and rub your stomach. All right, now if you can do that, I want you to stop. I want you to pat your stomach and rub your head. Okay, cool. Now if you can do that, switch hands. Do the same thing. Pat your head, rub your stomach. Now pat your stomach, rub your head. Oops. Okay, cool. Was it challenging? Was it tough? Was it harder than it looks? All right, well, listen. In a minute, I'll explain exactly how this relates to rope flow and healing your body, so stick around. All right, guys, let's get back to rope flow. By now, I'm sure you can tell that it's far more than just spinning a rope around in space. It's actually this dynamic full body workout that wakes up your joints, strengthens your core, and prevents your body from getting good at being immobile, right? So let's take a look at some of the specific ways rope flow can help to heal your body. Now, rope flow is typified by these smooth, graceful movement patterns, right, in a semicircular fashion, and they have a number of wonderful impacts on your body. So let's talk about them. First, you're going to have this synovial fluid released into your joints, and that is basically like WD-40 for your joints that causes them to not only be lubricated, but also to heal and nourish them so they become more supple and move more freely with less stiffness and pain. Another cool thing is that rope flow literally causes your brain to rewire itself, because these hands, as they move across, controlling the rope and across the midline of your body especially, it causes you to activate both hemispheres of your brain, which creates these brand new neurological pathways in the motor cortex, improving your coordination, helping you to move better throughout life. Another great thing about rope flow is that pretty much all the movements, when done properly, have this element of spinal rotation. And you'll see as you rotate your spine that it creates stronger core, right? More coordination as well as more strength in the muscles that support your spine. So this sort of helps to counteract all those years of sitting and slouching that you might have been subjecting your poor spine to. And lastly, if you've got any old injuries, you'll see that rope flow can help to gradually heal them because of its low impact and high repetition nature that it takes to learn all these movements. Is going to create a situation where those tendons and ligaments that have become frayed and stiff over time and don't properly heal, your body is encouraged to generate new cellular structures in there. So they'll heal and they'll be more flexible and pliable like they're supposed to be. And you'll see over time that you'll move much better and have less risk of injury or re-injury due to the low impact nature of rope flow. All right, let's get focused here. I'm going to share with you a personal story that I think is relevant. Now, I used to think of myself as fairly physically fit. I still do, right? But a few years ago, maybe back in like 2017 or 18, my shoulders have been low-key nagging me for a couple years at least. And I thought it would go away, but it never did. So I finally went to the doctor, right? So he sent me to get some imaging done, and I came back to get the results, and he looked at me with a strange look on his face, and he's got my information in front of me. He said, how old did you say you are again? I'm like, dude, you got my chart right there. I'm 47 at the time. And he says, well, I don't know what to tell you, but your shoulders have osteoarthritis of a 75-year-old. Wow. So I didn't see that coming at all. I guess all those years of Netflix and chill and all that time spent hunched over my cell phone and everything had taken its toll on your boy too. Okay, what are you gonna do? So I asked Doc, what can I do about this? What are you gonna do? I'm thinking, how you fix this? He's like, well, no cure for that. But you can stop doing anything strenuous, which of course, that's not my style, right? And he's like, well, we can give you some cortisone shots, which also is not my style. So, my shoulders basically felt like rusty door hinges at times, but I was determined I'm not start taking medicines. I'm not gonna go under the knife and all that kind of stuff. So I went and had some physical therapy, which did help a little bit, but it was always only a temporary reprieve, and then it would come back and kind of go back to the way it was, even with following the instructions of my therapist to the letter. But ultimately, once I found the rope, over time, I found that gradually all those aches and pains in my shoulders magically went away for good, not just temporarily. And at first, it wasn't easy, right? There were some moves I had to do that my body didn't want to do. Subconsciously or whatever, it thought they would be painful, and it wasn't really that they were necessarily very painful. They were maybe discomfort or whatever, but I persisted, and I worked through that. I wouldn't suggest any of you work through pain, especially without getting looked at by a doctor, but mild discomfort is natural and normal, especially when your body has not gotten used to moving in a certain way. And now my shoulders really feel as good as they ever have. They've never felt better. No surgery, no cortisone, no platelet-rich plasma, no pain medications, none of that stuff, just me and this rope on a regular basis. And I feel like I never had a shoulder problem in my life. All right, remember that test I had you do a little while ago, you pat your head and rub your stomach type of thing? How'd that work out for you? It's fun, right? Now look, it's not just a silly kid's game. It's basically just a test of your neuromuscular health and how good your brain works in controlling your body, right? Now, this is something I did as a kid. You know, I remember like literally I was like 8 or 9 years old and we would do this kind of thing, and I was very bad at it. I tried and tried. I just couldn't quite get it, but it came up recently in the conversation. And so I gave it a try, just for the first time in like 40 years or whatever, 45 years. And surprisingly, I was able to do it without too much trouble now. And I really believe that's because of all this time of practicing and flowing with the rope has really improved drastically my neuromuscular coordination, right? So it's a very powerful thing, and it's not to be taken lightly. You know, rope flow really does help restore those mind-muscle connections that get lost in our day-to-day lives, and it's very important. I have more than a few students who actually use rope flow to help mitigate some of their symptoms of Parkinson's and MS and other neuromuscular disorders. So, I mean, it just shows how powerful rope flow can actually be for improving your coordination, improving the function of your brain to control your body. Just imagine and think of how vitally important that is in the world. Oh, you're still here? See, I knew that you were one of my Flomies. I appreciate you because a lot of people have already left on this video, but you're still here, so I'm gonna give you a pro tip to how you can make sure you get the most healing benefits when using this rope in your rope flow practice. Now, the most important thing for healing is that you make sure you've got a properly diverse selection of movement patterns, right? So you wanna make sure you use underhand movements as well as overhand movements, right? Where the rope is going from toe to heel overhand, it's going from heel to toe and underhand. Most movements get your hands involved in front of your body, but you also want to make sure you move with movements that get your hands involved behind your body, right? And as well as that, you want to make sure you get movements that go above your head so that you can get your shoulders involved in different ranges of motion that they need. Also, you want to make sure that you don't just work on your dominant side. Make sure you use your left hand as much as your right hand and work to get it as smooth as possible so that you can increase your coordination on both sides. And as a bonus, right, as an added bonus, try to get in some locomotion movements, right? You want to get some contralateral movement practice with any move. It doesn't matter if it's whatever move you want, but you can do locomotion with pretty much any movement pattern and get your contralateral movements in. That will increase the healing benefits to become a full body healing bonanza, okay? Now look, before we go, I wanted to ask you guys, how did you do on that pat your stomach and rub your head challenge? I'm really curious. Let me know in the comments below how that went. But basically, that's a wrap. And I wanted to tell you that clearly rope flow is not just for people who want to show off in the park. It's for anybody who wants to improve their body and heal themselves and move in a more coordinated fashion and have a lot of fun along the way. So take that with you. Until the next time, may the flow be with you. Peace.